Well, good morning, fellow constitutionalists. This is my vlog, Original Intent, for January 26th, in the year of our Lord 2016. And I've had on the show, we've been talking about the difference between a republic and a democracy, and I was in a little bit of a Twitter conversation with a gentleman who would not define his terms properly and who was misquoting some of the men of the founding era, some of the people of the founding era, when it came to democracy. And I have a website here. It's called God the Original Intent. And basically this person, and I went through and checked out a bunch of these, to see if they were accurate in where they were located at, and that the people that actually said them. And for the most part, I haven't found any inconsistencies yet in this website. And there's quite a few quotes. I don't have time to go over them, but I'm going to pick out some of the major ones here. And basically, the Founding Fathers didn't want anything to do with the democracy. They didn't want anything to do with mobocracy or mob rule. They wanted the rule of law. They wanted to set up a republic which is based on law. Democracies are based on mob rule or natural law that isn't really written down and confirmed as this is the law that actually controls the policies and politics of the country. Whereas a republic operates by a law. Now, the Constitution of the United States, yes, it does not, other than telling the states that it'll have a Republican form of government in the states and they'll protect them, the Constitution nowhere says that the federal government is a republic. My answer to that is the Constitution of the United States actually defines what a republic actually is and how it functions. It is the very definition of a republic. And a lot of our founding fathers, they thought long and hard about this. They were students of history. They were well learned. They were, during the Enlightenment period, they were self-taught. If they wanted to learn something, they went out and learned it. They went out and researched it and tried to find things that pertain to it. And like I said, they were students of history, and they knew about different types of governments and different forms of government, and they wanted to put forth a unique government where the people are sovereign over the government and the government is constrained by the chains of law. Now, some people might say today, and rightly so, that our federal government is operating outside of the law, also operating outside of the Constitution, and is acting more like a big D democracy. And I can't argue with that. But the simple fact of the matter is, we were not set up that way. We need to turn people away from this type of ideology. No matter how much they scream and cry and rant about it, we need to change their minds about this. And if we can't change their minds, we just need to confound them and stop them from trying to implement what they think should be policy through an unconstitutional way of doing it, and trying to persuade people through mob fear and the mobocracy to change the government illegally. Against the law. And democracies do that quite often, folks, and that's why democracies don't last long in history. There has not been a democracy that has survived for very long in the world history. But let's get some of the quotes here real quick here from this website. And this one's by James Madison, and he's considered the father of the Constitution and also the fourth president of the United States. He said, democracy is the most vile form of government. Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. Alexander Hamilton, one of the monarchists in the founding era, he said, we are a republic. Real liberty is never found in despotism or in the extremes of democracy, big D democracy. Benjamin Rush, a simple democracy is the devil's own government. And one of the things, I like Benjamin Rush, and I've read some of his things, and I've actually read some commentaries about this. Basically, with a democracy, and when you have the people voting on every little thing, and you don't have a direct representative that actually does the voting and that can slow down the process and let passions cool down, let cooler heads prevail, and actually get done what needs to be done within the constraints of the law. In a democracy, passions can run high and wild. The people can demand a referendum, a vote on the issues, and actually vote while cooler heads can't prevail, while emotions and and people can take advantage of this. People can take advantage of the mob mentality and push through agendas that otherwise wouldn't be popular and wouldn't pass muster. And I'm talking about like Obamacare. And I'm talking about the exuberance that elevated Barack Hussein Obama to the presidency. It was irrational. It was mob-driven. You know, people wanted what they wanted no matter what the consequences were. And folks, they really didn't even know who Barack Obama was. They just were voting because it was a historical thing to do, that he was the first black president, and they wanted to be part of that history. No common sense to it, no reasoning, no logic to it, and that's the dangers of a democracy. John Adams said, democracy will soon generate into anarchy, such an anarchy that even man will do what is right in his own eyes, and no man's life or property or reputation or liberty will be secure. And every one of these will soon mold itself into a system of subordination of all the moral virtues and intellectual abilities, all the powers of wealth, beauty, wit, and science, to the wanton pleasures, the capricious will, and the execrable or abominable cruelty of one or a very few. And that's what happens in democracies, folks. You get a very few elites that can pull the levers of emotion on the mob and get done what they want done. And that's one of the dangers of a democracy. Thomas Jefferson, the democracy will cease to exist when they take away from those who are willing to work and give to those who would not. Fisher Ames, the founding father and framer of the First Amendment of the Constitution, a democracy is a volcano which conceals the fiery materials of its own destruction. These will produce an eruption and carry desolation in their way. Another one that Thomas... Now, this one is attributed to Thomas Jefferson. I try to point these things out, but they can't confirm this. And some people think that Thomas Jefferson said that democracy is nothing more than mob rule, where 51% of the people may take away the rights of the other 49%. Now, whether Jefferson said that or not, that's an absolute true statement. And like I said, I'm pointing this out, that Thomas Jefferson cannot be confirmed as being the author of that quote. Gouverneur Morris, statesman, diplomat, writer of the final draft of the Constitution, we have seen the tumults of democracy terminate in France, as they have everywhere terminated in despotism. And folks, that's what happened during the French Revolution. That's what was happening. It was turning into a democracy where the will of the people and the votes of the people, controlled by a very few, were running the country, and we see the horror that actually brought on to France. Charles Carroll, founding father and leader from Maryland. Without morals, a republic cannot subsist any length of time. They, therefore, who are decrying the Christian religion, whose morality is so sublime and pure, are undermining the solid foundation of morals, the best security for the duration of free governments. So Charles Carroll was saying that the republic based on morals is the best security for the duration of a free government. And we see that today, folks, where people of low moral character and no ethics are in the government now, wielding the levers of power, despite what we the people want them to be doing, despite what the Constitution constrains them to be doing. And we see, if we let this go on much longer, folks, if we let the mob have its way, we're not going to have a country anymore. We're not going to have a government, we're not going to have freedoms, and we're not going to have liberties, because in a democracy, your rights, your freedoms, and your liberties can be taken away by a simple majority vote of 50+1. So folks, when you hear somebody call us a democracy, please stand up to them. Gently but firmly tell them that we're not a democracy. We were set up as a republic, and we need to get back to that, and we need to oppose anybody who thinks otherwise. This is my vlog for Original Intent, Republic versus Democrat, for January 27th, year of our Lord 2016. Thank you, and God bless.